All right. Shalom, everybody. What a great turnout. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming. We have from Ada, Oklahoma, from Sulphur, from Bartlesville, from Stillwater, from Oklahoma City, right? Blanchard. Anywhere else? Edmond. Okay. Choctaw. Wow, we got all because we love Israel and we love the God of Israel. So tonight, this is Roberta Roberts, and I've known Roberta for years, and she called me and told me that Aaron Lipkin could come and speak, and we said yes, and we already know because we loved his dad, and came to hear him many times, and he was here. I don't know if he was in this building or not, I can't remember. But we're going to get right to it, and he'll explain about himself, and it's going to be a wonderful evening. So, Mr. Aaron Lipkin.
Louder. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay, thank you for hosting me. Thank you, Roberta, for arranging this. Hillel, there's a bit of... there we go. Good, thank you. Thank you so much for arranging this. I think that God kind of helped you out. I mean, you know, suddenly you're like, oh, everybody wants to do this. So thank you so much for arranging this. My wife and I arrived here 2 weeks ago from Israel. We traveled first to Dallas for a few days to, crash, get over jet lag, and then we moved from Nashville, where we participated in 2 very interesting conferences, and then to Kansas City, where we spent very intensive 4 or 5 days of lecturing, and we just crashed in Oklahoma yesterday, Oklahoma City, after stopping in Tulsa for lunch with the Rebbitzin Weg. And it's really good to be here. For the Lipkin family, Oklahoma is like a home. Very much thanks to Roberta and her amazing relationship with the Lipkin family and helping out for so many years with my father. I remember being here as a kid, probably 17 years old or 18 years old, traveling with my father, sleeping at your home. So really thank you so much for everything you're doing, not just for the Lipkin family, but for Israel, for the Jewish people. So thank you. I'll say a few words about myself. I am an Israeli Orthodox Jew that was born and raised in Jerusalem. I didn't grow up religious. I actually grew up, you would say, in Israel traditional, which means that we believed in God, we believed in the Bible. We prayed not out of the book, but out of the heart. And I remember as a kid going to my grandparents' house in Bat Yam, which is near Tel Aviv. And because my mother's family is originally from Cairo, Egypt, we would actually, sit at the living room, and suddenly after talking, my grandfather would go like this with his hands, and we would all be quiet, and he would start praying to God in Arabic in the living room. And this was one of my experiences as a kid. So for me, God was present. He's even in the living room. I don't have to go to synagogue to talk to God. He's right here. So I remember as a kid, talking to God, and also remember my parents buying me a series of books of the animated Bible in Hebrew. So growing up, reading that, made me very connected to the Bible, to the biblical stories. And, later on, going to elementary school in Israel, I spoke with someone here about the educational system here. In Israel, it's mandatory to learn Bible in the elementary schools. And I really enjoyed learning Bible because I was probably the best student in class. Because I read that animated series. For me, when read about Ezekiel and his revelations, I was standing with him in my mind, seeing them, and with Abraham on Mount Moriah, with Isaac. These are all stories that I felt that were part of me, and I was part of them. So I really enjoyed learning Bible at school. And later on, when we moved to high school, we also had Bible class. Unfortunately, the Bible method of teaching in high school totally changed. I went to a secular high school in Jerusalem, and when we went into class, my teacher said that we're going to learn the book of Genesis. So I know this. I'm going to ace this class. And suddenly, my teacher is saying that the book of Genesis, the first chapters are actually pagan mythologies from Assyria and Babylon. And we're going to be learning about these pagan mythologies and how they affected the book of Genesis. And she just started talking, and I was, as a young Jewish believer in God and in the Bible, it sounded so foreign to me that she started talking about these things. I looked around, and the majority of the people in my class were not from traditional families. They were from atheist Jewish families. And so their encounter with the Bible was very different than mine. Their understanding, their knowledge was brought from that teacher. So think about that. We are 40 kids in class, and they're being taught that their most important book, their identity, is actually not theirs. It's even pagan, and it's from different nations. That terrible, very terrible. And I, until today, I'm really angry at my Bible teacher. Really angry at the Israeli educational system that actually was willing to teach that. Anyway, I grew up, left high school after finishing it, and went to the Israeli Defense Forces for a 3-year mandatory service, like every 18-year-old boy or girl. And I was drafted immediately to intelligence because I knew Arabic from home. It was an amazing 3-year service. I can't really tell you what I did because I'll have to kill you. But during the army service, something amazing happened. I met my wife. She was a soldier in my base, and she saw this handsome soldier, and she approached to me and she asked to date me, and I said, fine, let's do this. And after dating for probably a few months, she proposed, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do this. It was a bit disappointing because I was expecting something on the beach with the sunset and the flowers, but it wasn't very romantic. But anyway, we got married, and we moved from Jerusalem. We were both from Jerusalem, so we actually moved from Jerusalem to a nice town in the area of Samaria. I don't know if you guys were in Israel, who wasn't, but it's north of Jerusalem. And, we went in there. My wife saw it, and she immediately fell in love, and we moved there. And thank God we have 5 children. The oldest is 25, just got married last year. And the youngest is a 15-year-old girl. And we're really blessed to be able to live there. And I remember when I was in the university studying international politics, before we moved to Ofra, I used to work at a lawyer's office. And at the lawyer's office, there was a young lady who was my age, redheaded, and she studied archaeology in the Hebrew University. And I remember, one day being at the office, and she came to me and she said, "Aaron, I see that you have a kippah on your head." I was then already religious, and And she said, Aaron, I see you have a kippah on your head. I want to tell you something. I am learning archaeology in the Hebrew University. And they taught us that the Exodus never really happened. That Moses and Joshua never existed. There's no proof for it, so it didn't happen. So I told her, oh, really? So that was a very short discussion. I understood that my Bible teacher and that girl are basically getting their information from the same source or the same, excuse me to say, evil spirit. Anyway, I continued on with my life. I worked in tourism for many years with the Birthright Project. I don't know if you guys heard about it. And one day I'm walking in the streets of Jerusalem and I see an advertisement. And the advertisement spoke about, said that the professor of archaeology, Adam Zertal, is going to be speaking about his discovery of Joshua's altar. Now I'm standing in front of this ad and things don't add up, because how can a professor of archaeology who believes that Moses and Joshua never existed is going to talk about his discovery of the altar that Joshua, who never existed, built? So I said to myself, I have to go and listen to him, and I did. I went there, and I sat there for 3 hours. I couldn't keep my eyes off of the presentation of Professor Adam Zertal. And since then, my life got connected to his life and to his work. So what I'm going to do is share a bit about his life and also about his amazing discoveries. I'm sure that it's going to blow you away. You know, just maybe a month before Adam Zertal passed away in 2015, he asked me to continue his work. I'm not an archaeologist, but he did ask me to help his team as much as possible with promoting his discoveries in the world, his books, his research. And so that's exactly what happened. I started working, helping them. Today I'm part of the Manasseh Hill Country Survey that Professor Adam Zertal established. I'm their drone photographer. By the way, I have to tell you a story about the drones before we start. When I married my wife, who is from a Jewish Yemenite origin, I didn't know that Yemenite Jews didn't celebrate birthdays. Now this is a big problem because I like to celebrate my birthdays. So, you know, the years pass and nothing's happening. And the reason for that is because Yemenite Jews are very Spartan. They feel that celebrating your birthday is a narcissistic thing, and it's a waste of money. So, you know, the years pass, and I turned 40, and you know, we're at my mother-in-law's house. Big mistake. And I say to my wife, I say, Etty, I'm 40 years old. I've been waiting for a long time. It's time to buy me a nice birthday present. And I feel my mother-in-law coming, and she's looking at me, and she's saying, you know who celebrated their birthday in the Bible? I said, who? And she said, Pharaoh. And Pharaoh had the dreams about the cows, and that was on his birthday. You want to be evil like Pharaoh? I said yes. So my wife, you know, she sees the tension rising. She comes in, she says, Aaron, what do you want? And I said, well, I have my eyes on a drone. And she says, what type of drone? How much does it cost? So I told her, it's $1,500. She said, not a dime, not a dime. So I asked her, can I crowdfund for it? She said, sure, you won't succeed. And I did. So I actually got my first drone when I was 40 years old. And yeah, today the Lipkin fleet has about 6 drones. And I actually use these drones to help the team of Adam Zertal document all the archaeological sites that they find, And so my name actually appears on all their archaeological publications. So that's a great honor, and I feel that I'm fulfilling Adam Zertal's request from me, and hopefully he's looking from the skies and with a nice smile on his face. Really miss him. So before we start talking about Joshua's altar, I first want to see exactly what are we talking about. What is this Joshua's altar? You know, we all go through the Bible. We read the Bible constantly. At least some of us do. Sometimes we tend to just pass through the verses and don't really get to dive in and really check a certain topic. So let's move to the verses. So first of all, we have the Israelites on the eastern bank of the Jordan River. They are about to move into the west bank of the Jordan River, into Canaan. And Moses is afraid. Moses is very concerned because, first of all, he's not going in with them. And secondly, he's afraid that they're going from a reality where they are under God's providence, where manna comes every day from the sky, where they see the miracles of God, to a reality where they have economy, politics, military, and so just normal life, which will take them away from God, from the spirituality of God. And so Moses makes sure that when the Israelites go into the land, they have to go to two mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, and do a ceremony of blessings and curses. And this is going to be, in a way, a reenactment of Mount Sinai. I'm going to prove that to you. So the verses are, when the Lord your God has brought you into the land you're entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessing, and on Mount Ebal the curses. Okay, so we actually have, Moses is saying there are two mountains, curses, blessings, and you need to proclaim them. What does it mean? We don't really know, but when we move on to Deuteronomy 27, we actually have a very detailed explanation of what Moses wants them to do. So I'm going to divide Deuteronomy 27 to two commandments. One commandment is to build a stone altar on Mount Ebal. Moses says, when you enter in the land, you're going to build an altar on Mount Ebal, the mountain of curses, and you're going to sacrifice on that altar. What Moses is saying to the Israelites is, I want you to have a barbecue party. Okay? What are they celebrating? What are the Israelites celebrating? What? Coming into the land. Thank you, guys. This is the point of the whole 5 books. They came out of Egypt, and they wandered 40 years in the desert. They just enter into the land of Israel. The first thing they're going to do is a big celebration, and that's what we Jews do in Israel. Every time we have a celebration, barbecue party. And I have a vegan daughter. It's not easy. Okay? Now, so the commandment is build an altar on Mount Ebal. Okay? The altar has to be made out of uncut stones, and you're going to be sacrificing burnt offerings, fellowship offerings, rejoicing. And there's also some writing, and you shall write very clearly all the words of this law on these stones you have set up. That's the first commandment. The second commandment is a ceremony of blessings and curses. So when Moses speaks about proclaiming the blessings and curses on Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, that's what he's talking about. When you have crossed the Jordan, these tribes shall stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people. We have 6 tribes on one mountain, 6 tribes on the other mountain, and we have the Levites in the middle, and they're going to proclaim, they're going to read out a list of 12 curses. Why 12? 12 tribes. Let's look at these curses. Cursed is anyone who makes an idol, a thing detestable to the Lord, the work of skilled hands, and sets it up in secret. Then all the people shall say, Amen. What does this remind you? Ten Commandments. First commandment. Very good. Let's do the second one. Cursed is anyone who dishonors their father or mother. Ten Commandments. Okay. You continue on and you see so many other parallels between the Ten Commandments and the 12 curses. This is not a coincidence. The Bible or Moses is trying to bring the Israelites under the Sinaitic covenant again in the land of Israel. Okay, it's not hard to believe in God when God is actually talking to you on Mount Sinai. Okay, they were terrified, but in the land of Israel, the Israelites are accepting God's kingdom willingly. Okay, they are standing there and they say, "Amen. We will do this. We don't need any miracles or anything like that. We believe in you no matter what. We're going to be loyal to your covenant." Okay, this is the point of this whole ceremony. It's a covenantal ceremony. Okay, so we have two commandments: build an altar, barbecue party, Independence Day, and Sinai in Israel. Okay, we're good?
Yes.
Now, Joshua performs the commandments of Moses, okay? And we read that after conquering Jericho and Ai, Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord. Okay, he's building an altar on the mountain of curses. Okay, we'll talk about that. The God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones, on which no iron tool had been used. On it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings. One commandment, done. Next. He talks about the ceremony of blessings and curses, okay? All the Israelites with their elders, officials, judges were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Both the foreigners living among them and the native-born were there. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had formally commanded when he gave instructions to bless the people of Israel. You have to imagine hundreds of thousands of people standing in this valley, on both sides of the valley, and the Levites are saying these curses, and the Israelites are shouting amen in their hundreds of thousands. You can imagine what that does. Okay, that's a huge event, and it's the first time and the only time where all the people of Israel convene in one place. Not just the men, not just the judges, not just the elders, but the women and the children, and even other groups that the Bible just briefly talks about, the native-born, the foreigners living among them. Who are these people? We can talk about that. That's a different lecture. But everybody's here. Everybody is attending this important reenactment of Sinai. And so on and so forth. Now, how do you build a stone altar? Okay, we have a commandment to build the stone altar. How do you build the stone altar? This is in Exodus 20. If you make an altar of stones for me, which is this case, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. So we have two very important things. First of all, the altar has to be out of uncut stones. Don't use an iron tool on the stones because you will defile it. Iron is what makes swords. Swords shed blood. The altar of God is an altar of peace. And you have to have something else, not stairs, that would lead up to the altar. Do you believe this?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We believe that, right?
Yes.
Historians acknowledge that after more than 2 centuries of archaeological research, there is still an absence of evidence for the presence of Israel and Egypt. It is hard to accept, but scholars today are convinced that Israel was not present in Egypt nor wandered in Sinai. They did not conquer Canaan, nor inherited it to the 12 tribes. And the Israelite religion did not adopt monotheism on Mount Sinai, but at the end of the monarchical period. This is, I don't want to use bad words, this is what my Bible teacher learned. This is what my colleague in the lawyer's office learned. They learned that all the stories from Genesis all the way to even King David or King Solomon, all these stories are not true. They're made up, and they were made up hundreds of years later. You see the problem?
Yes.
When you send your children to colleges, not just in high schools in Israel, but all over the world. So if you wonder why your kids come back from college different. So, why are they saying that? They're saying that for two reasons. One, they have an agenda. We all know that. But what they're basing that agenda on is the notion that if something doesn't exist, if there's no proof, it never happened. That's the logical assumption. And indeed, when in the late 19th century, early 20th century, Christian archaeologists who believed in the Bible went to look for the biblical sites in the land of Israel. They actually went to Mount Ebal to look for the structure that we just read about in the book of Joshua. There are clear verses that say that Joshua built a stone altar on Mount Ebal. So what did they do? They read the Bible in Paris, in America, in London. They went to the land of Israel, to the Holy Land. They went to Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. And what they did was the following. They said, we had a ceremony of blessings and curses in this valley. So the altar has to be on the slopes that are facing the valley on Mount Ebal. And so they went there, they started walking around looking for ancient buildings, ancient structures, and they report that they didn't find anything that shows such a structure that belongs to that time. They didn't say there's no evidence, it didn't exist. What they're saying is, we believe in the Bible, we know it was there, it's no longer there. That's what they're saying. In the 1970s, you have a school of thought that takes over the universities, and they're saying, of course you didn't find the altar on Mount Ebal. It was never there. It never happened. And this is how archaeologists are being educated for decades. And 1948, Israel establishes its independence. The biblical heartland of Israel, where Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim are located, are under Jordanian occupation. Israel cannot access these areas. We cannot send archaeologists to do research or to study. 1967, the Six-Day War, Israel liberates Judea and Samaria, and the biblical heartland is suddenly open for research. But we don't know exactly how long we will have these territories under our control. So Israel decides in 1978 to do an emergency archaeological survey. Crash course in archaeology. Archaeology excavation is excavating from top to bottom, documenting the different layers and the findings until you get to the bedrock. That's archaeology, excavation. A survey is to walk and to look in a certain area for ancient sites. We're looking for walls, we're looking for pottery, we're looking for anything that gives us the understanding that there was human activity in this area. We see the pottery, we hold it, we identify it as Persian, Roman, Greek. We open the map and we say we found 3 pieces of Greek pottery, and we know that this site was active during the Greek period. And they continue on. And that way they map complete areas, and we have an archaeological map of all the ancient sites. That's an archaeological survey. And so Adam Zertal and his crew receive a specific area to research. Okay, so the laser doesn't work. Do you see the brown area? The brown area includes the Jordan Valley, starting a bit north of Jericho. It doesn't include Jericho. And the area west to that area, which is the tribal land of Manasseh. Now remember, Adam Zertal is a professor of archaeology. He doesn't believe in the Bible. He doesn't believe that these stories really happen. And the only thing he's interested in is walking and finding ancient sites. I just want to say a word about Adam Zertal. Adam Zertal was wounded in the Yom Kippur War by an Egyptian shell in the Suez Canal. He was hospitalized, and when he graduated from archaeology at the hospital and received this important mission to survey the Jordan Valley and Samaria, he did that. And I'm talking about walking thousands of miles. He did that with his crutches. Just imagine how much motivation and energy he had to invest in doing this. And mind you, the survey hasn't ended. Even after Adam Zertal's passing away, it's still ongoing. It hasn't finished. We're talking about a huge area that was never surveyed, an uncharted area that happens to be the exact place where the Bible actually happened. During this survey, Adam Zertal and his crew discover thousands of sites that were undocumented. Nobody knew about them, not even my teacher, not even the professor that taught that young red-headed girl in the university. It didn't disturb them to say there's no evidence, but they didn't even look for it. They didn't even know it was there. And so Adam Zertal is walking, and he's walking with his crew, and they're looking for ancient sites, and they're finding stuff that no one ever found. They're mapping it. And what we're going to show you now very briefly is, Hillel? I'm doing this on purpose, so you're in.
Yeah.
You're, what did he find? What did he find? Okay. We good? Okay, good. So, first of all, the minimalist archaeologists are saying there's no evidence for the entrance to the land of Israel by the Israelites. Okay? Millions of Israelites entered in the area of Jericho. We went to Jericho. We couldn't find any evidence of that entrance to the land. It didn't happen. Okay? Adam Zertal is not looking for any evidence of the entrance to the land. He's just mapping the Jordan Valley. And north of Jericho, all the way up to the Jezreel Valley, he's finding a fascinating thing. During the late Bronze Age, around the year 1400, 1500 BC, nobody is living in the Jordan Valley. It's empty. Zilch, nothing, desert. Early Iron Age period, suddenly hundreds of semi-nomadic sites appear out of nowhere in the Jordan Valley. Okay, this is another, this is another important discovery that Adam Zertal does. He finds 6 footprint structures that were built by the same semi-nomadic civilization. These sites seem to be worshiping sites. And he's very fascinated about them. And this is another topic of lecture that I speak about, the footprint structures. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on one of those foot structures. Adam Zertal is walking in Mount Ebal. Okay, he got to Mount Ebal. He needs to survey Mount Ebal. He's not looking for the altar. He's just mapping old sites, ancient sites. And as he walks on the northern side of the mountain, he bumps into one of these foot structures. He goes into the foot structure and he starts seeing lots and lots of pieces of pottery. You know what, I think I brought a few. Let me see, like, they're here. Yes, you are so lucky. So, these are pieces from that. I'm holding 3,300-year-old pottery pieces from this site. And you're going to literally be touching Joshua and the judges right now. Let me continue. So he's walking and he's seeing all these pottery pieces on the ground, and he's so excited because of two things. First thing, these pieces are from the settlement period. It's the period that everybody talks about being, the period when the Israelites expanded in the land, in the mountain ridge. The second thing is that he's really surprised is he cannot find pottery from other periods. It's just that. The place was only used once in history, and that's it. He continues on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a drone video that I did. This is the foot structure that I'm talking about. Imagine Adam Zertal walking through that foot structure that you see, and he's advancing, and the more he moves northward, and he's reaching the highest spot, the more pottery he finds. Eventually, he gets to a big pile of stone. Okay? This is on the highest spot in that foot structure, and he sees so much pottery mixed with the stones, and he's really excited. He says, I have to come and excavate. Remember, until now he surveyed. Now he wants to excavate. He comes to Mount Ebal in 1982 with his team, and they start excavating this pile of stone. And the first thing they do is they peel off the outer layer of stones, and after a few weeks, a structure emerges. Now, this is a very strange structure. First of all, it's made out of a huge room, but the only problem architecturally, is that there's no door. It's just a room, and the room is sealed from the top. Leading to the room is a ramp, and with that ramp are two secondary ramps on both sides. And on both sides of the ramp are two courtyards with circular installations and vessels laid inside of them. Now, the vessels were broken, but they were found complete in those installations. Adam Zertal is really fascinated. This does not look like anything he ever saw before. But he wants to continue excavating. So he goes, this is another sketch of this structure, just so you get an idea. And you see at the top, the rectangular room sealed from the top. So he decides to open the top and start excavating downward to the bedrock. And what he finds inside is four layers of bones and ashes. Imagine that. Wow. Someone 3,300 years ago built a room and filled it up with bones and ashes. That's really weird. Really weird. Adam Zertal takes the bones and sends them to the Hebrew University. The Hebrew University analyzes the bones, and the list comes back to Adam Zertal: sheep, goat, cows, deer. But what's interesting is the bones he didn't find in there. No pig bones, no donkey bones, no horse bones. Another interesting thing, the bones all belong to young animals. That's another interesting fact, because when you excavate an archaeological site, the bones are usually bones of old animals that were slaughtered. The young animals were usually kept alive. So Adam Zertal is really fascinated about this. He continues excavating down, and he finds more stuff. This is the opening of the room that I told you about. You see half of it bones and ashes, and the other half they excavated down all the way to the bedrock. This is another sketch of the structure. You can see the huge structure, the big structure, and you could see another thing very interesting. When Adam Zertal reaches the bedrock, he finds in the middle of the room another structure, a circular structure that is in the exact center of the room. Okay? Inside that structure, he finds several interesting finds that I'm going to show you. But what's interesting is summarizing the history of this site. Someone 3,300 years ago built the smaller structure that you see, the circular structure. The next stage, someone built the bigger structure on top of the smaller structure and put the smaller structure in the middle of that room. That had certain importance to it. Why did they make that the center of that bigger room? And then the third stage, they covered up the structure with stones intentionally. So, when people ask me, how can a 3,300-year-old structure survive earthquakes, wars, and so on and so forth? Well, the answer is very simple. Because they actually covered it with stone, it kept it together for us to discover it 3,300 years later. Amazing. What else was found? Earrings, gold and silver. They found scarabs dating to the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III. Scarabs are these ancient luck charms that were very common in the ancient world, in Canaan, in Egypt, and around the Middle East. And what's great about them is that you can actually connect them to a certain pharaoh, because the pharaoh's insignia is on those scarabs. So we know that these scarabs are from the reign of Thutmose III. That brings us to the year, around the year 1450, 1425. Interesting. Another thing we found is a stone dice, like the one you use when you gamble. What does this exactly do there? We don't know. And obviously there are theories, but it was part of what was done in that site. We found a pumice chalice. This is some sort of a grail that was used for probably some sort of an incense ceremonial activity. What's interesting about it is that it's the second that was found in the world. The first one was found in Sinai, in the mines, the Egyptian mines of Serabit el-Khadem. And so we have an interesting connection to Sinai. Interesting. Lots of pieces of plaster. Now, this is actually one of the most important findings, because on the one hand, you don't find plaster in such ancient sites, especially a site that's just nowhere. I mean, it's just out there somewhere. It's not a part of a city or a village. It's just lots of pieces of plaster. But when you look at the Bible, plaster is a very important component in the whole ceremony of the altar, writing the law on the altar, and so on. Now, keep in mind, Adam Zertal is finding all of these things, and he's saying, it's not it. Okay, he knows the stories, but there's no way whatsoever. So Adam Zertal is really, really curious. What is this structure? And he does what every archaeologist does. He goes to libraries and he tries to look for parallels to this fascinating site in the Egyptian culture, in the Assyrian, the Babylonian, the Hittites. He's looking for anything that looks like this structure. And he can't find any parallel, anything. And he's so frustrated. He sits down at the dining hall of Shavei Shomron and he starts sketching this structure, how it looked like, the ramp and the room and everything. And suddenly a religious Jew passes behind him. And he looks at this and he says, "Professor, is this what you found on Mount Ebal?" And Professor Adam Zertal says, "Yes, and I don't know what it is. I looked everywhere. Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, nothing. Can't find anything that looks like this." And then he sees this religious Jew, all excited, and then he runs away. And he comes back. And this Jew comes back with a book called the Mishnah. He opens the Mishnah that talks about the different parts of the second temple. And he opens it at exactly the place where the altar is described. Yes. And Adam Zertal, who thought he looked everywhere, is looking at the sketch that he did, and he's looking at the Mishnah, Midot Tractate, and he sees an amazing resemblance. In the temple, an altar that obviously had bones and ashes inside, a ramp going up to it with two secondary ramps on both sides. And at that moment in time, Adam Zertal sees his whole world collapsing. He looks at this religious Jew and he says to him, Tzvi is his name, Tzvi, do you realize what we have here? This is an Israelite altar, the biggest of its kind in the land of Israel, and it's on Mount Ebal. There's no other option. This is Joshua's altar. And if this is Joshua's altar, then Joshua exists, and Moses existed, and the Exodus really happened. And the religious Jew looks at him and says, of course. Adam Zertal describes in his book, A Nation Born, how for 3 days all the archaeologists that were working with him and the volunteers couldn't sleep. They couldn't sleep. This is how big this is. An amazing discovery. All the newspapers in Israel talked about this. The excitement in Israel was over the top. And immediately after the excitement came the opposition. Adam Zertal describes in his book how professors of archaeology are coming all the way from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and are attacking him for excavating in the Palestinian territories. You know, you're going against the international law. This is terrible. This is Palestinian land. You cannot excavate here. And the attacks just culminate and continue on. And I always saw in Adam Zertal's eyes the sadness and the disappointment from an academic world that he appreciated, that he believed in, and suddenly just total disappointment. Now this didn't end there. Keep in mind that after every major excavation, you need to get a final report out there. And the final report is what starts the dialogue in the academic world. It's what brings the finding to the educational system, to the encyclopedias, to this has to be that's the next step. If you don't do it, the finding is not out there. You don't hear about it. The problem is that in order to write the final report, you need money. Archaeologists are not rich. They get their money from the universities. They get grants. Do you think that the universities will give Adam Zertal, who found a biblical site, grants to write a report? This is a big challenge for the universities. Or as Professor Steger said, if there is an altar on Mount Ebal, as Zertal claims, we biblical scholars should all go back to kindergarten. Wow. So you can imagine the opposition that Zertal had, and you can imagine that the final report wasn't written until today. Wow. No final report on this major discovery. Wow. The good news is that about 6 years ago we received a donation from an individual in North America. And the final report is actually being written as we speak. So hopefully during the year 2027, we're going to have, finally, the final report on the 1980s excavation. And I can tell you that because I'm part of the Manasseh Hill survey, I actually have the results from the final report, and I'm very excited about them. And maybe I'll share them with you if you behave. So, but we're going back back in history to the time of the end of the excavations in 1989. The site is on Mount Ebal, very close to the city of Shechem, the Palestinian city of Nablus, if you heard that name as well, Nablus. And in 1993, Israel signs the Oslo agreements with the Palestinian Authority, with the PLO. And the area of Judea and Samaria is divided between the Palestinian Authority and Israel, area A, B, and C. And area A is under full Palestinian control, area C is under full Israeli control, and area B is a mixture, security control of Israel and civilian control of the Palestinian Authority. So archaeology in area B is under the supervision of the Palestinian Authority. A certain individual in the Israeli army that is responsible for the archaeology of Judea and Samaria makes sure that the border excludes Joshua's altar and puts it under Palestinian control. You understand that there is a systematic attempt by the academic authorities to totally erase the Bible. Now, it's really hard for me to say that because I believe in the army of Israel. I was part of the army of Israel. But there are individuals in Israel and in the world that have a very hard time with the Bible, with believing in God, with miracles, with the historicity of the Bible, and they will fight it with in any way they can. Not just in Israel, in the United States, anywhere. So the site of Joshua's altar is deserted. Our Israeli archaeologists cannot excavate there because it's under Palestinian control. The Palestinians cannot excavate there because it's such an important biblical site that Israel won't allow them to excavate there. And to tell you the truth, I don't want the Palestinians to excavate there. And it's hard to get there for visitors because it's in Area B, and you need a military escort. You need to coordinate this with the army. And sometimes the army says no, sometimes the army says maybe, yes, cancels at the last minute. It's not an easy site to get to. So it's really deserted, and I would expect every Israeli student in high school, in college, to visit this site. And it's hard, it's really hard to do it. It's really hard for an educational institution to do it. Palestinian vandalism. Graffiti on the walls of the altar, burning tires inside, collapsing the walls intentionally. I actually went there one day with a few friends, and as we got closer to the altar, we saw a Palestinian bulldozer bulldozing a road right adjacent to the foot structure. And we didn't know exactly what he was doing, but I immediately reported it to the army. They came and confiscated this bulldozer. But eventually we understood that he was preparing the way for the building of a Palestinian neighborhood on top of the foot structure. Now you have to understand, Arab villages expand naturally. They don't just suddenly build an extension somewhere else. So this was an intentional active initiative to erase that site and to not allow Jews to visit it, because you have an Arab villager, you can't reach the site. So lots of bad things happening with the site. I'm really, really worried. And so I think to myself, the only way to bring this site, to protect it, is to make it important again. I reach out to Dr. Shai Bar, the student of Adam Zertal, and he says to me, Aaron, if I touch this site with my finger, my career is gone. It's in Area B, I can't do anything there. I go to another archaeologist from Houston, Texas. His name is Scott Stripling, and he's excavating at Shiloh, ancient Shiloh. I go to him and I say, Scott, have you ever been to Joshua's altar? And he says, no, I've never been there, but I want to go. So I said, let's go. We board my Jeep, and we drive there, and we get there, and Scott gets off the Jeep and starts walking in the foot structure. And, imagine a child in a toy store. He's walking around, he sees all this Israelite pottery, like Adam Zertal in the 1980s. He's so excited. And we get to the altar, and he walks to the altar, goes into the altar, outside of the altar, walks around, and I see all this enthusiasm. And I say to Scott, do you like this structure? And he said, very, very much. You want to see a video from that visit? Shalom, everyone. This is Aaron Lipkin, and I'm here with Dr. Scott Stripling.
Hello, everybody.
And just behind us is one of the most amazing archaeological structures that were discovered, Joshua's altar. Scott, what can you say about this?
Well, this is one of the most incredible sites in Israel. It ties in with the earliest Israelite heritage, and this rectangular altar was built by people who wanted to venerate what God had done in this place. Underneath it is a round altar that we're interested in exploring also. When people come to a place like this, they connect with their faith heritage. And
so, I said, Scott, can you come and excavate here? Can you do something? Maybe you're a foreign archaeologist. You can do something that Shai Bar, the Israeli archaeologist, can't. And he said, Aaron, I can't. It's in Area B. We cannot excavate here. And I was like, ugh. But then he said, but Aaron, you're not an archaeologist. So I'm looking at him, what? He said, I have an idea. Adam Zertal, when he excavated in the 1980s, he excavated inside the altar, he took the material out, he checked it, and then he threw it down into the valley. There's an archaeological dump right near the altar. If you, Aaron, make it a way to bring that archaeological dump to a safe location, I can come with my staff and with our technologies, the new technologies, metal detecting, carbon dating, flotation of organic matter, so many things that Adam Zertal didn't have in the 1980s. Maybe Adam Zertal missed something. Will you do it? When a Texan asks you to do something, you say, yeehaw. So, the first thing to do was to find the archaeological dumps. So naturally I brought my drone, and I located the eastern and western dump. So what you see in front of you is the eastern dump, and you can see its location in connection to the altar itself. The next thing to do was to coordinate several visits to the site and bring volunteers, because what we have here is a very delicate job to do. We have to take out the dump without hurting the archaeological site. So this needs to be done by hand. So I reach out to volunteers, both Jewish and Christian, and they come to the site, and we fill up the buckets. Hard here.
Bucket!
We bring the stuff to Shavei Shomron, and Scott Stripling arrives in December of 2019 with his staff. They erect sifting stations. They wet sifting, dry sifting, flotation devices, metal detecting, and they start working on the materials. After a few days, I get a phone call. Scott says, Aaron, come over here. I come, and Scott sees me with a big smile on his face. And he opens his hand. And in his hand, I see a small piece of something. I ask him, Scott, what is it? He says, Aaron, I have no idea. It's metal of some kind. I don't know what it is, from which period. We're going to send it out to be checked. So we send it to the Hebrew University, and what they see is a piece of metal that was folded, a strip of metal that was folded. They try to open it, and it starts to break. It's fragile, so they stop, and we send it to the Czech Republic in Prague. there is a special unit at the university there that specializes in ancient metallic findings from all over the world. And there they have a special technology called tomography. Tomography is like x-raying an object, and you get scans not only of the outside but also on the inside, so you don't have to open it. And so this is the tomographic machine, and the scans start flowing to Israel and to Scott Stripling in Houston. And the guys in Prague are saying to Scott, there's something on that tablet, there's something on that piece of metal. There are indentations that were man-made. They're not made out of scratches or natural scratches. These are man-made indentations. We know what they look like because that's our specialty. We can't identify them, but you might identify them. So we are sending you these scans. Scott Stripling sends these scans to Professor Gershom Galil at the Haifa University and to Dr. Peter van der Ven in Germany. And Scott calls me after a few days. He says, Aaron, both professors are seeing letters on the metal, letters engraved in the metal. And it's not Greek, it's not Persian, it's not Roman, it's ancient Hebrew. Now you have to understand, this is the dream of every archaeologist. Okay, you find pottery everywhere. You find stones, you find walls, you find glass, you find scarabs. But when you find real text, that's when things become really interesting. Scott says, Aaron, we're doing a press conference in Houston about this important finding. Watch it. So I'm going to show you an edited clip of the conference. You can see the whole thing. It's about an hour long. You can see it on YouTube. I only edited the most important parts, especially the parts where he mentions my name.
First of all, I'd like to say a word about Aaron Lipkin. It was Aaron and I who originally dreamed or brainstormed this idea on the last day of the Shiloh excavation in 2019. And it was going to take someone on that end to logistically help pull things off, to relocate the dump material and just do so many logistical things. And so Aaron and I dreamed about this, and so it was that initial collaboration that was key to bringing this to fruition. So thank you, Aaron. Working on the inside of the tablet, we recovered 40 Hebrew letters, and this is in a script that we would call proto-alphabetic script. Sometimes if it's from the Sinai, it's referred to as Proto-Sinaitic, or sometimes folks would refer to this as Proto-Canaanite. We will call it Proto-alphabetic script. 11 of these letters are alephs, the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and they are all the archaic form. This is older than Paleo-Hebrew. This predates Paleo-Hebrew. And so you have an ox head that is morphing into an aleph. And in the 23-word English translation, which you're looking at, the word curse, arur in Hebrew, appears 10 times. And, ladies and gentlemen, the name Yahweh appears twice. We now have the name Yahweh, the biblical God of Israel, in an inscription dating from LB2, which is earlier than many skeptics would argue that the Bible existed or that there was even the ability to write down a sacred text. Okay, this is Stuart Peck from Appian Media. Yes, we did excavate through about 30% of the material, Stu, and we would love to excavate through more, and hopefully we will have generous donors that will enable us to do that. This is all, of course, a very expensive process, and we would love to do more work on Mount Ebal in the future. This was the test, if you will, to find out what was in the dump piles, and the day that Aaron Lipkin and I, last day we went to look at the site to inaugurate the project. As we pulled away and stopped and looked back, it had rained a little earlier, and there was a rainbow over the altar. And instead of a pot of gold, we found a pot of lead at the end of the rainbow. Okay, we have another.
We were actually in Kansas just now, so it actually was connected to. So this is a major discovery. And later on, they wrote a peer-reviewed article in Science Heritage about this tablet, and it's on the internet, so you can actually look at it. It's very scientific and you have all the different letters, and they're showing you how ancient these letters are. And I want to give you an understanding of how they look like, because you imagine maybe letters like we use today in Hebrew. You see these letters, Naphtali, Dan, Yehuda. These are not the letters that appear on the tablet. Okay, this is let me crash course in ancient Hebrew. This is a list of fonts that being used. The first line is the modern Hebrew that we use today, and it comes from Second Temple Hebrew. You see Second Temple Hebrew all the way at the bottom? That's the origin. This is the Second Temple script is how they wrote during the Second Temple period, during the time of Yeshua. This is how they wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, for example. That's the script. Now, when you go back in time to the First Temple period, then the letters become different. They're Phoenician, they're called Phoenician or Paleo-Hebrew, and as you go back in time to the second row, or the third row, or the second row from the top, you start seeing something different. You see that the letters are actually pictures. Okay? Now, this kind of reminds us of Egypt and the hieroglyphs, right? But here it's different. In hieroglyphs, you have each sign could be a letter, it could be a word, it could be a sentence, it could be an idea. Here we're talking about an alphabet. And each of these pictures is a picture of something that starts with that letter. In other words, the letter Daled or D is a fish, dag. The letter Yud is a yad, a hand. The letter Hey is a person standing saying, hey. Okay? And so on and so forth. So, the letters that we found on the tablet belong to the earliest form of Hebrew. The Aleph is an ox head, aluf. The letter B, Bet, is a house, a bite. Okay, this is the ancient. Now, you want to see how it looks like? I don't know about you guys. It's hard to read. But this is the inner inscription. This is the inside. Now, I'm going to show you a zoom in. You can actually see in the center, the guy, the boxer. Yeah. That's a hey. Okay, that's the letter hey that I told you about. They actually named it after an important boxer, Muhammad Ali, I think, or something like that. Anyway, so that's the letter hey, and you have the different letters. This is the ancient Hebrew that and I have to stop you for a second. Are we looking at the letters that were used to write the Torah, the Ten Commandments? Think about that. We're used to saying the Ten Commandments, the way we all know them.
Yes.
But this is the way that Moses and Joshua wrote. Wow. I think it's amazing to get a glimpse into what it looks like. So what happened? These letters morphed and then were changed by probably King Solomon to the Phoenician script. At that time of Joshua and Moses, the direction of the writing was changed. It could be right to left, it could be left to right, it could be as the ox plows. And then when Solomon came in, he changed the script and he made sure that it's from right to left. But at the time of Moses and Joshua, that wasn't the case. So we're learning many, many interesting things, and I'm going to share with you something from the upcoming peer-reviewed article. This is the inscription on the outside of the tablet. So we actually have copy. We have two copies of the same text on either side of the tablet. And this is the topic of the next peer-reviewed article. This is the way that God's name is written. Look at that. Now, again, I'm seeing this as an Israeli Jew who reads the Bible, who first of all is used to seeing the tetra, how do you call it, tetragram, the four-letter name.
Yes.
And suddenly we have the three-letter name, which also appears in the Bible, especially in names like Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, the Yud Hey Vav at the end. And second of all, the name is spelled from left to right, not from right to left. So this shows you exactly what I just talked about. But when I looked at it, and I looked at it a lot, believe me, something came to me, an insight that I want to share with you. And you can accept what I say, and you can say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But this is really interesting. You might want to listen to this. When I was going as a newcomer to the religious Jewish world, and I attended the prayers in synagogue in the morning, I was really astonished by a certain part of the prayer, the part of the priestly blessing. The prayer in synagogue is very simple. It's a dialogue between the cantor and the congregation. The cantor leads the prayer, the congregation participates. And then, at a certain point, everybody stops, and the priests, the kohanim, they go forward to the front part of the synagogue, and they cover themselves with their prayer shawl, and they say, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has commanded us to bless his people Israel with love." And then they turn around to the congregation, and they stand with their hands like this, and they say the priestly blessing, word by word, to the congregation. Now, for me as a young man and a newcomer to the Jewish religion, it was always fascinating to me. Where does it come from? Where is it written that the priesthood has to stand like this and pray over the congregants? But after seeing this, something came to me. What is the commandment to the priesthood? We know the priestly blessing, right?
Yes.
But what's the commandment?
Place his name on the places. Yes.
Say it again?
Place his name on the people.
Very good. And you're the first person that answers that question after many lectures. Thank you. Is it possible that the priests, the kohanim, are standing like this because they're literally putting God's name on the congregation? Are we seeing the hey, and the two letters on both sides? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway. And I want to... I'm going backwards. Sorry about that. Am I? No. And I want to finish. You want to see the priestly blessing at the Wailing Wall, just to get an understanding of it. Now the cantor is going to read the priestly blessing word by word. So, by the way, where do you know this from? Star Trek. And I urge you to look on YouTube for a video by Leonard Nimoy explaining how he as a kid saw this in synagogue and then brought that to Star Trek. And so Live Long and Prosper is from that. I want to finish with a question. And the question is, why is the altar commanded to be built on the mountain of curses? I don't know about you guys, but if I was Moses, I would command the Israelites to build the altar on the good mountain, not on the bad mountain. And then after thinking about it longer, I think I have a solution. I think that the title that we have above this whole affair of blessings and curses and Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim and so on is basically God and Moses saying to the Israelites, I'm giving you the freedom of choice. Okay? I told you what the good way is and what the bad way is. If you choose to go on the good way, if you choose to follow my commandments, you'll be blessed. If you don't, you'll be cursed. But you have the freedom of choice. Why then is the altar of God on Mount Ebal? I think the answer is the following. If you choose to walk in God's way and you're blessed, good for you. If you choose not to walk in God's way and you're cursed, and you feel that nothing is working, and you feel that everything is going wrong, and you're failing, sometimes you have that moment in your life where you're standing and looking at God and saying, I get it, I'm sorry, bring me back to you. Hashivenu elecha. So God is not waiting on the mountain of blessings. He's waiting for the sinner on the mountain of curse as a beacon to show him the way back. And the altar and the sacrifice is the way to atone for the sins. So I think the big message here is repentance. This is what the altar is trying to convey. And I want to thank you for coming here and for listening to this. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Questions? Yes?
Have you watched the video on YouTube?
Which video?
The one of
The press conference? Just write Mount Ebal lead tablet. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of criticism, but also you're going to see maybe the press conference on Mount Ebal lead tablet, and you'll see the whole thing. But again, the important thing is what I showed you with my names. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So Mount Ebal is bare, but Mount Gerizim, there's a community there.
Right. Yes.
And it's not is it a Arabic community?
So Mount Ebal currently has only, I would say, one establishment on it, and that's the Israeli army. They actually have a very important army base on the summit. And when we go there with groups to visit the site, we actually get right by the gate of the army, and then we turn around the base and then go to the altar. The good news is that the Israeli government just announced the establishment of 25 communities in Judea and Samaria, And guess what? One of them is going to be on Mount Ebal. And they're really, in the next few weeks or months, they're going to be actually establishing the community. So I don't know, who knows, if you come to Israel next year, for example, and you go to the altar, we would actually stop on the way at the new community of Ebal. That's the name, that's going to be the name, Ebal. And you'll be able to see the residents there. It's really a revolution. You have to understand it. This is more than my dreams. It's like, on Mount Gerizim, you have two communities. One community is the Samaritans. Have you heard of the Samaritans?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe just to say a few words about them. They are, according to genetic tests, they are descendants of the Israelites that used to live there from the 10 tribes. The paternal gene shows that they're from the tribe of Levi, and the maternal gene shows that they are a mixture of Jewish Iraqi women and foreign women. So this is very interesting. So the Samaritans are really fascinating story. They number only 1,000 in the world. Yeah. And there's another community on Mount Gerizim, a Jewish community, a community called Mountain of Blessing, Ha Bracha, and it's a very dear community. And I have to say about that specific community that the rabbi there is one of the major national religious Zionist rabbis in Israel. His name is Eliezer Melamed, and believe it or not, he invited a Christian ministry to come to the mountain and be guests of the community. So they have their own hill. I'm sure you've heard of that ministry. It's called Hayovel.
Yes.
They volunteer in Israel. They harvest grapes and help Israeli farmers. And so there's actually a Christian ministry there, and they have an amazing relationship. And they learn so much together, and it's beautiful. Yes, sir.
If someone wanted to donate towards the continuing archaeological work, how would they do that?
So first of all, I would love a new drone. Just kidding. No, really, I have so many drones, I really don't need any drones. Actually, I have a drone called Muhammad. That's my suicide drone. I use it for really, if I crash it, I don't feel bad. No. Anyway, but aside from that, if you want to donate, you can donate to several causes. One is the Manasseh Hill Survey, which is a nonprofit in Israel, and they need money. They're excommunicated by the academic world, and they need money to operate. And so that's one cause. And there are other nonprofits in Israel that are working very hard to preserve biblical sites in Judea and Samaria, like a nonprofit called Guarding Eternity. So you can go online and just, by credit pay there and give them a donation. They're doing an amazing job. And they're actually the ones that are responsible for the next piece of news that I'm going to share with you. They actually lobbied for Joshua's altar in the last 3 years, and the Israeli government just now declared large areas on the mountain as protected, including the altar itself. And so the Palestinian Authority cannot do anything in these areas, and they're actually working on the next stage, and that is to build a national heritage site on Mount Ebal to preserve the altar, to make it accessible. You would actually have restrooms at the site. You'd have to pay money to get in there, and you would have to go through a tourist trap. So I'm really waiting for that. Not for the tourist trap, but I'm really waiting for the site to be developed enough to have people, from all the world, Jews, Christians, and anyone who wants to come and visit and touch the stones that Joshua touched. I mean, that's amazing. Yes, questions? That's it?
Is this tonight, is it videotaped so we can watch it?
Yes.
And
El Salvador, he would love
Uh-huh.
to see his
if you will go to Bet Ami Congregation and on YouTube, it's being live streamed.
And another way to get more information is, first of all, I have a very active Facebook page when I'm not too lazy, and so you're more than welcome to follow me. And I do a lot of posts from Joshua's altar. Just so you know, every Friday there's a young group that goes there to pray the morning service at the site. And I post the pictures, and people think I'm that mad to wake up at 5 in the morning and be there. So they think I actually take the pictures, but I don't. I just get them and I post them on Facebook. I have a Facebook, a good Facebook page to follow. You can also listen to me on a podcast that I have called The Teacher and the Preacher. I have a fellow co-host by the name of Pastor Dave Megara. We have this Jewish Orthodox Evangelical Christian dialogue going on, and it's pretty interesting. So I invite you to tune in and listen to that. And my YouTube channel also has some really interesting stuff on it. We actually have courses in biblical archaeology with professors that teach the Bible the right way. And so you can actually learn about worshiping sites of the ancient Israelites. You can listen and tune in to a course on Joshua's altar and get to hear the professors that are in touch with this material talk about the altar, and it's very, very interesting. Just in general, expect 2027 to be an important year for the altar because of the final report, because of the second peer-reviewed article on the lead tablet, because of the building of the new community on Mount Ebal, because of really so many things, the building a national heritage site. This is going to be a major year for Joshua's altar, and I'm sorry that Adam Zertal is not alive to see this happening. Again, the frustration of being blocked by the academic world and by so many factors. So I'm happy I'm sure he's looking from heaven and he's very happy, and we're trying to make him happy at least. I mean, that's and make God happy. I mean, yes. With that, yes.
You mentioned the Bible teacher from your youth. Do you know if there's any other Bible teacher? I'm assuming the answer to this is yes. Any other Bible teachers currently that you know of that are still kind of spreading fallacies in that way?
I don't know if.
Not by name, but like
Yeah.
still happening.
I can tell you that I had conversations with the young students who learn in the public secular educational system in Israel, and when I described my experiences with them and the material that I was taught, they said to me, "We don't know what you're talking about." So but again, I don't know if it's like a school thing, that school does it that way, that school does it that way. I'm pretty sure that there are certain elements in the way I learned Bible in high school that are still being taught, especially, I don't know if you've heard of the documentary hypothesis, but the idea that the 5 books of Moses were written by different scribes and in different times, and they're basically ripping apart the 5 books of Moses into different parts, and some of these parts were invented or were written hundreds of years later, and so they were invented. And so that, I think that in that aspect is still being taught in some schools. I do want to say one thing, and nobody asked me here about October 7th. We live in Israel. We just went through a very, very hard 2 years. I can tell you that because of the attack that was horrible, the atrocities were terrible, there are good things that came out of it. First of all, the understanding that we survived the miracle. Israel could have been destroyed on the following days of October 7th. But several other things happened aside from the miracle, and obviously the whole war was a big miracle. The fact that there is a spiritual revival going on in Israel. Jews are becoming more spiritual, more connected to their heritage. They try to observe more commandments. Had Jews starting to put tefillin on, to observe the Sabbath, to say psalms, to keep kosher. There's so many things that are happening. And just today, my son talked to me, and he said that Channel 12, a left-wing channel, by the way, interviewed hundreds of young Jews in Israel who are just about to vote in the next elections in a few months. And they asked them questions, and out of the 100%, only 5% said that they were left-wing. The rest said that they are either center or right-wing. Everybody was much more connected to their Jewish identity. It's things that we wouldn't dream of before October 7th. On October 7th, just the way leading to October 7th, we had so many events that actually showed how Israel is being fractured, how certain groups in the Jewish Israeli population are trying to stop anything that's connected to religion, to God. I don't know if you were aware of it, but we actually had prayers on the Feast of Trumpets in Tel Aviv, and there is separation between men and women in prayer, and we had left-wing demonstrators that came into the crowd, and we say in Israel they blew up the event. They tried to stop the prayers. People were afraid that on the eve of October 7th, when we're celebrating, the Torah, Simchat Torah, that terrible things would happen, like, I don't know, people maybe pushing the Torah scrolls on the floor. I mean, it was really bad. And suddenly, after October 7th, there is a spirit of unity. We have people that are still, doing their stuff, but the majority of the people of Israel understand that we have a common heritage. We have a common enemy. Things are clearer now, and I think that's amazing. So I know I answered your question, but I gave you.
Well, you kind of led me into a follow-up question.
Yes, good.
What do they gain from keeping this information from the general public?
Joshua's altar?
Yes.
Well, first of all, obviously that there is proof of the historicity of the Bible or parts of the Bible. Secondly, that the people of Israel are connected to Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel. When you had decades that the media and the politicians tried to convince the Israeli population that that area belongs to the Palestinians, that we have nothing to do with it, that it's not ours, that it belongs to them. And so when you erase Joshua's altar, when you erase these connections of the Jewish people to that area, then you can give that area to someone else. And so that's another reason. So I think you have an atheist mindset of we don't want people to think there's a God, and a left-wing, which is connected, by the way, a left-wing mind that doesn't want Judea and Samaria to be there for the Jews to connect to God. So that's kind of the yeah. My rabbi would say not evil, maybe mistaken.
Very mistaken.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming. We have some books here from Adam Zertal about the altar, about the footprint structures, and another interesting discovery, the city of Sisera, the Canaanite general that was killed by Yael. And we also have one of my DVDs with a teaching about the site of Jacob's dream of the ladder at Bethel, called The Gate of Heaven. The books are $30 each, and the DVD is $20. And you can order the rest of the DVDs on the internet on our website. And I urge you to come to Israel, contact Roberta, and she will tell you exactly how to do that. Even during the war, we had 8 buses of people, folks from the United States, that didn't care. They came, they supported us, they stood with us, and they had an amazing time in Israel, and they came back home safely. So definitely come. We are going through some tension right
Tension
now,
Yes,
in our
yes.
area. But at the end of that tension, you would actually be able to visit Israel and then extend your trip and visit Tehran.
So, what a blessing, right? If you would like to donate, Aaron told me Lipkin Tours.
Yes.
Lipkin Tours, if you would like to write a check or if you want to do cash. And we have a box there, the Tzedakah box. So, James, could you move that forward a little bit? Also, it's not Shabbat, so you can buy. And so they're $30. And so what a blessing. Thank you. Oklahoma loves you. We love you, and we hope to have you come back again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. There's also some more snacks if you haven't had a chance and you want to. Nash, go ahead.